Beautiful. Okay. So on this chapter, we want to discuss strategic leadership by executives. So let's go ahead and start the chapter. Let me see if I can fix my sound. Okay, very good. So learning objectives. We want to understand what organizational processes determine an organizational performance, understand how top executives can influence organizational process and improve organizational performance, understanding the conditions that make a strategic leadership especially important, understand the conditions that make it more difficult for for a chief executive to make changes in an organization. Then next we want to talk about the personal traits and tenure in office that are related to chief executive leadership behavior, understanding the primary types of research used to assess the importance of a strategic leadership and what has been found, understanding the potential advantages of executive teams and conditions that increase their effectiveness. And finally, understanding the procedures that can be used to monitor the environment and formulate a good competitive strategy. So on this chapter, we want to focus on strategic leadership. So we've been talking about leadership with regard to different aspects. So this chapter, we want to look at it with the highlight of strategic leadership. So how can we be competitive and strategically competitive regarding the leadership? So first of all, we need to know how leaders influence organizational performance. One of the key ways and approaches to performance is the adaptation to the environment. A lot of times there are leaders who have a certain way of leading, and it doesn't matter where they go or what type of company and what type of environment they go, they have the exact same leadership. So they don't adapt to the environment. So that is one of their biggest drawbacks. A lot of times they're not well accepted because they're not flexible to adapt themselves to the situations or environment they're going to go to. So they just have a certain type of leadership. They just stick to it without making any changes. So definitely it's important and it's good to be able to adapt to the environment and to the way the environment should be. Then efficiency and process reliability. So you need to be efficient and your process should be reliable. So a lot of times you focus on effectiveness. That the difference between efficiency and effectiveness is that when you are doing the thing right, I mean, you're doing what you need to do. You're doing what it is right to do. You're being effective. But efficiency is when you're doing what you're doing good, but in a very efficient and good way. So when you have efficiency and your process is reliable, that's a very good approach for you as a leader to influence the organization's performance. And then, doing the things right and doing the right thing. So efficiency is doing the things right. Human resources and relationships. So human resource is very important. I mean, leading, you got to understand that you're leading people. You're not leading machines. So when you are leading, you got to take that into consideration, that the human relations is well taken care of. Human resources, you have a very strong human resource. Effectiveness. Let's say your company is producing tires for companies. So if your company is using the right material and does it in the right way, and the product that they use is produced correctly, you're being effective. But efficiency is when you're doing it's not the matter of whether your tires are good or bad or you're doing the right tires. It's whatever process that you have chosen. Even if you've chosen to produce the wrong tires, the process you've chosen, you're efficient in it. Means that you're able to, from step 1 to step 10, that it takes for you to produce those tires, you're doing it correctly. So these are two different matters. One is producing the right tire. Second is producing that same tire that you're producing, no matter if it's right or wrong, but you're doing it in a right way. So all those steps that you have chosen and your machines will do, they are done correctly. So that is efficiency. Okay, you're welcome. So innovation and adaptation. So we talked about adaptation to like different atmospheres. So competitors in the market, they use analysis programs. They do market surveys, they do focus groups, they do consumer panels, competitive product testing, benchmarking, competitor products and processes. So they basically use different ways to do the analysis. So market surveys is basically they give out surveys to their customers, or when they do focus group, they just randomly, and not necessarily randomly, but first they choose the group they want to study, and randomly among those groups they do the research. They do consumer panels. They choose certain number of consumers, and then do the discussion panels. They do the comparative product testing. So a lot of times they give different products to the customers for them to try them and then tell them which one they like more. And they do benchmarking with the competitors. They compare themselves, their quality and their performance, their efficiency with the competitors, with other like competitors in the market. The innovation programs. Innovation is very important when it comes to leadership, and effective leadership focuses on innovation because what makes you stand out is not just doing it good or be good at it, is doing it differently. Because when your company is innovative, you're able to outcompete or do better than other competitors, because they are all focusing on what everybody's doing. They're all doing the same thing. But when you are innovative, you think out of the box, and you basically utilize something that they don't use. You have intrapreneurship, you have quality circles, you have innovation circles. So as you can see, all these ways of producing innovation is basically helping your company. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're able to produce certain talents or help people flourish in their talents, or you have quality circles, like those circles, they like they're groups. Quality circles are like groups that people work together as a team and they monitor each other, they coach each other. Or innovation goals, you set certain goals and your company basically achieves those goals. Or knowledge acquisition, you have consultants, you have joint ventures, import best practices from outside. So you basically try to acquire knowledge from outside. You try to get knowledge from outside and become as knowledgeable as possible. Then you try to utilize organizational learning, knowledge management systems, Post-Mortems, and joint ventures. So basically what happens is your organizational learning is going to help you within the process of flourishing your system and your company. You utilize knowledge management system. We talked about this in early sessions that today we are living in the age of information. Information is very important. So having a good knowledge management system is very important because it helps you to manage your knowledge, manage your information. You have a very successful database, efficient database that helps you to have access to the information you need for your production, and then you basically help others, not just yourself, but basically anybody. It's gonna be important to give them the right information, and you know uh, when it's done the right way. So Post-mortems are basically the follow-ups, are stuff that are happening in the following of certain events. So it's like when you do certain follow-ups and get feedback from people, those are normally called post-mortems. And basically those are analysis or discussions of the event. So you're welcome. So basically, let's say you produce or you introduce a new product. So when you do basically a postmortem for your staff, you do a discussion of the event. You try, after it's over, you try to sit together, try to understand it, try to get the feedback from your employees. So that's what we call postmortems. Feedback from the staff. So it's like having discussion with them after something is occurring. So let's say a certain machine doesn't work. So you have a postmortem with them, try to discuss, and then very good comment from Mrs. Ormati. When organization that facilitates the learning of the staff members and continually reforms itself is called the learning organization. So learning organization is when your company is in a constant learning process. So you're always learning. You're either your company is learning, and that will happen via training your staff in different levels. It could be your managers, it could be your normal regular staff. So whatever it takes, you're doing to be able to learn more. Okay. So temporary structural forms for implementing change. So sometimes it takes some certain changes for you to be able to be innovative. Let's say you have a certain type of machine that allow you to do or work in a certain way. But let's say due to some circumstances, your machines have to work much faster for just a certain period of time. Like now is the New Year time, and like certain companies had to work much harder to produce faster because the demand is much higher now. So let's say for this sake, you need to do some temporary structural change. You need to make some changes for the production to be able to produce the amount that you need for this period of time. Then growth and diversification programs. So a lot of times you need to grow. We talked about this in business strategy for those of you who attended the business strategy course. The business strategy course, we talked about diversification and growth. Companies need to grow. We discussed that for a company to survive, one of the basic requirements it needs is to grow. So growth and diversification programs are also very, very useful for innovation and adaptation. You sometimes do merger acquisition, you do franchises, you do joint ventures, all these different ways of diversifying and growing. You take on, you merge with other companies, and you acquire some other companies and you become one. Sometimes you open franchises, you just follow the same marketing plan, or joint ventures is just for a certain business or certain type of product or service. You joint venture with another company. Normally when you're expanding into like another country or region that you don't have any branches there. So you do joint ventures, and that way you'll get their help with regard to certain rules or regulations of your destination. Then the structural forms. Sometimes your structure is important to be researched and analyzed. You need some departments to do the research. Some small product divisions. A lot of time you're producing your products as a whole, but you definitely need some small product divisions to focus on that product that needs some innovation and change. So you need to have a certain department and division for just that certain product that is important for you. You need product managers. Like now these companies, every single product that comes out, there's a product manager managing that product with all these different aspects. It's marketing, it's production, operation, everything. So a single product is important, and it's important enough to have a production manager. And then cross-functional product development teams. So cross-functional product development teams is when there are teams that are like communicating with each other, and that is not just a team that is like a team of production. So the team of service and team of production. The team of customer service, which is normally for the complaints, and the team for the production, they can communicate with each other. So different steps along with the product, you will have different type of communication within the groups and teams. So that helps you to actually innovate, and the innovation grows because the reason is when you are communicating with somebody at the complaint department, you will see something, you will understand about something that you would not know where you are, because somebody's telling you the aftermath of the production. They're telling you, okay, this product that you produce, it causes these problems, and that's why we're getting all these complaints, because let's say it's these products, after usage of 1 month, they become less efficient, or they automatically turn off, and that has caused a lot of dissatisfaction in customers. So this way, you're getting something after the result, and that communication helps you be innovative. You see the future, and that helps you to fix the problem or think about it at least. So, or they give you feedbacks. They say, like, we believe that this could help you make a better product because it gives you all these complaints. Maybe you can basically, put let's say if it's automatically turning off, put a device that always checks the device, like if it's a video player, that it doesn't turn it off, or automatically always checks the power. So like they can give you some idea, and then you can implement it as the engineer, or if it's a service problem, then you can look at it in a different regard. Then appraisal, recognition, and reward system focused on innovation and customer satisfaction. You always need to acknowledge the fact that somebody has done a great job, or when somebody makes a mistake, you gotta also acknowledge that and tell them and try to have them fix the problem. So you gotta be fair. And the employees and the staff have to comply with the expectations of the company. But when they exceed that, you definitely want to encourage them. You want to tell them you did a great job and be appreciated, and you can do that by rewards. It could be financial, or it could be just recognition. Recognition in itself is very important for the staff. When their great job is recognized, they really appreciate it. Efficiency and process reliability is your performance management and goal setting programs. Yeah, the Toyota, basically they were, according to what I read in the news, they were charged billions of dollars because of the recalls they made and the dissatisfaction of the employees. I'm sorry, the consumers. It was more of their brakes. Like the way their brake system were working were not efficient, caused a lot of accidents. So, but you gotta understand, big companies like Toyota, they make tons of revenue out of their products, and when there are complaints, like because Toyota, like in America specifically, Toyota and Japanese cars are dominant. They're everywhere. So there are a lot of consumers. When there's a minor problem, when there's just a bit of problem, they have to be very, very specific about the problem, immediately address the issue and fix it, because it could, if one minor problem could cause a lot of problems for many, because there are many Toyota users. So that's why, like, they make a lot of money. At the same time, when they make a mistake, it'll cost them a lot, because there are a lot of customers that would be affected and influenced, and a dissatisfaction could cost them a lot. So to relate it to what we're talking about, one of the things that they could do is like for this certain problem, they could do as temporary structural reform and reforms committees to take care of this problem, and find out why exactly this problem happened mostly. And I would say most definitely it's because of the design. There was a design like mistake, so they could find out who was in charge of it and address the problem. Then do the learning, organizational learning. They have to learn from it in the future, so don't let it happen in the future. And also the competitor market research is important, because they might have lost some market share, so they have to compensate and learn how to get back onto the to the status quo they were at. Okay. You're welcome. So we were at slide 7. Okay. I think we're on slide 7. Yeah, we talked about recognition. So at this one, we talked about performance management and goal setting. So you want to manage the performance of your staff. Basically the way the goal is set is also important. So you want to make sure you set the right goals, and when you set the goals, you achieve them. So MBOs is when you manage by objectives. So you put an objective, and then you manage according to that goal. So when you set the goal and you follow that goal in order to achieve it is important, and it's very important when it comes to efficiency and effectiveness. So when we look at it with the perspective of effectiveness, you set the goal and you try to achieve that goal based on just performing accordingly to achieve it. But when it comes to effectiveness, you try to set the right goal. So we're just referring back to the effectiveness and efficiency difference. So effectiveness is setting the right goal, and efficiency is making sure that the steps and the approach you take in order to achieve that goal is correct. Then process and quality improvement. This is also very important. We have a course offered at Worldwide Science called Service Quality Management. So at Service Quality Management, we talk about different methods of service quality. I actually teach that course using my own book that I published. It's on service quality and how different approaches like Six Sigma, social quality management come handy when it comes to improving the service quality. So in that course, we talk in detail about all these methods, but all they are methods and approaches for you to improve the quality. So in my book, I have focused on the service quality and like especially in education sector, but generally it's dominant, and whatever company that you look at, they have this total quality management. Toyota, for example, is one of the most successful ones in total quality management. They have teams of like employees rather than just employees in different departments. So they work like teams. They monitor each other. They're improving the quality every time. So it's like a continuous improvement process rather than just improve when there's a problem. So they monitor themselves very, very, very well. Then cost reduction programs. You want to reduce the cost. A lot of times when it comes to competition, you need to reduce the cost because otherwise you cannot compete with other companies, other rivals. Sometimes you need to outsource. Outsourcing has been one of the best ways to reduce the cost because by outsourcing, you will go and produce it in the area or in the region that costs you the least. A lot of times, outsourcing to China will be the case because China, the cost of labor and a lot of other costs that you might have in your own area does not exist. So people go to China, set up their the production factory there, and then the other sections like marketing and everything else would be in your current region. Then just-in-time inventory. This is also utilized by Toyota. Just-in-time inventory is rather than having an inventory that you keep and stock your items that you need for your production, you just get them as you need them. So you basically try to work with certain suppliers that they can be very prompt in getting you what you need, but then you just get what you need. So let's say for Toyota, when they get order for a car, as soon as they get the order, they start getting the items they need to produce the car, rather than just producing the cars, stocking them, and then selling them to the dealerships. Then structural forms, like sometimes functional specialization or formalization or standardization helps you. This is about the structure of the company or structure of different products or operation centers. You want to make sure they are functioning and they're formalized and standardized in a way that help you be productive enough and successful enough in the market. Then recognition reward system, again, for your efficiency and process reliability. You want to address that. When somebody helps you to be productive, to be efficient, and the processes are reliable, you definitely want to address that. You want to acknowledge it. You want to thank them. And if they make a mistake, you also want to let them know. And human resource in relations. So before we go, let's just have like some example. I want you guys to give me an example of how you lead with regard to efficiency process in your own company. So just give me an example. I want your own example, like wherever you work, whatever company, NGO, like government company, or whatever company that you work for. Please share an example of how you do any of these. How, for example, pick one, like performance management. How do you set the goals? how do you manage by setting those goals, like by those objectives? Give us an example. Or how do you improve the quality, the service quality or the production quality? How do you do cost reduction? So give us an example, a personal example from your own experience. Yeah, take a couple minutes, think about it, and let's discuss it. Okay, so who wants to share his or her example? Okay, most of the company's owners, when they want cost reduction for products, they bring down the quality. I know of a juice factory who's currently competing from neighbor countries by buying from He oh, yeah. So the quality is not. I mean, it is always one of the. It has been one of the strategies to reduce the quality, but but as you know, nowadays companies are trying to give you the same quality but at a lower cost. So it's really a concern for the companies because they might lose their you know, customers. So it's very important to try to keep the quality where it is. Just try to better the steps or approaches that you have rather than the quality. So yeah, buying in bulk, like in like bigger scales, the raw materials could save you some money, and that could help you. Any other example? The company's not getting, yeah, good example. They compete with imported beverages. Yeah. That's a very viable way to compete. That is great. Knowledge of what and how you do it and transfer this knowledge to others. So in order to make um, just in payment processing, assign a specific time to each step, something like standard and after something. Okay, very good example from Mr. Wardock. So what you do is you want to make the payment process efficient. So after each payment is done, you try to monitor the performance. Okay, so this is more of, are you talking about when you buy your materials? What type of payment are you talking about? Are you talking about the time that you pay for the required products? Yeah, suppliers. Okay, yeah, very good. It's always good to have a monitoring system when you purchase the products to make sure they comply with your standards and your expectations. Okay, very good. Okay, very good. So let's move forward. We talk about the human resource and relations, quality of work-life programs. So when you talk about the human resource, you're dealing with the quality of work-life. So basically, not just the product, not just the production or efficiency or effectiveness, but the environment that your staff are working is also important. The type of job sharing, the type of flexible time, the care and the fitness center, employees benefit programs, if they have health care, if they have retirement, the socialization and team building, whether there's team building or not, employee development programs, if they're training, 360 feedback, education subsidies, all these are important. So human resource programs like succession planning, assessment centers, and recruiting programs is also important. So how you do the planning for your human resource? How do you train your future employees that are going to take over from your previous employees? How do you help to recruit better employees? How do you empower your employees? Do the self-management teams or employee ownership or industrial democracy, recognition and reward programs focused on loyalty, service, or a skill. And then finally, there are ways to influence the performance, like leadership behaviors, programs, systems and structure, competitive strategy. All these are also important. So it's not just a matter of managing, but sometimes you influence the performance, like with your behaviors. Your leadership behaviors, we talked about this, that there are general behaviors that are assigned to leadership. But your personal leadership behaviors, those that are unique to you as a leader, those that are your character, will also very be important, and they identify you. They make you stand out compared to other leaders because they're just unique to you and your personality. And then different programs, systems, and structures, competitive strategy, these are all also utilized. Management system programs and structure forms use of performance determinants. So efficiency and process reliability, we talked about performance management and goal setting, MBOs, and so we talked about it. So it's just in like brief what we just discussed. And then human resource, and then innovation and adaptation. Yeah. So need for flexible or adaptive leadership. So there's a need for focus on multiple performance determinants. So there's a need to find a balance between priorities, need to find this balance is also important because a lot of times there are so many things you want to do, but you only get to focus on certain one of them. You cannot just focus on everything, right? So it's always good to prioritize. You put something at the most important level, then others at the second level of importance. So it's important to be prioritized when it comes to activities that you got to do. Then you enhance multiple priorities at the same time. You also try to improve them. And then balance impacted by changes in importance of the determinants. So you try to impact the balance, and also when you make changes on those factors that are important with regard to the product or the services you're providing. So all these call for a flexible and adaptive leadership. So getting back to the same subject, that you as a leader cannot just choose one type of leadership that fits all, and no matter where you go or what you do, you just do the same type of leadership. A lot of times you need to change and make changes accordingly. When you're in a different environment, you got to make change. Certain approaches you use take change because you cannot use them anymore. You got to like make changes and make it look the way that it's acceptable. Then coordinating leadership across levels and subunits. So you also want to make sure that the fates of different leaders are closely intertwined. So intertwined means it's interconnected. So when you are a leader in a certain department, it's important for you to be able to communicate and also in touch with the leaders in other departments. It's important that leaders are sort of united. When one leader fails, that failure could cause troubles for other leaders in the company. So it's important to have a good way to monitor them all and help them communicate. When there is conflict and resistance, it sort of stops or reduces the performance. So you want to reduce the number of conflicts between you and your staff to the minimal level. And it's not that you just want to be compliant or they want to be compliant, but it's more of understanding each other. When you set the goals, let's say when you're doing the MBO, like managing by objectives, you want to make sure that your staff basically understand and have a good idea of what you basically mean by that certain objective. So you are setting the right goals and you're making sure that your staff and employee understand your goals. Then your performance depends on how well competition and disagreements are addressed. So a lot of times your performance depends a lot on how the competition between employees inside or outside the company, or when there are disagreements, you address them, you try to fix them, you try to resolve them, you try to help the staff understand them and move on. So your role as a leader is very important. Then there's constraints on executives. There are internal constraints, external constraints. So constraints are there are certain correlations or strong organizational culture. So your culture allows certain things and doesn't allow certain things. And externally, your products and services will limit you. When there are powerful stakeholders or shareholders, they also have control over what you do and what you don't do. And then perception of the organizational performance also roles a play. So constraints and executive traits as joint determinants. So these constraints and then the executive decisions will limit you within a certain range that you cannot exceed that range because you have to be within that level of expectation. So conditions affecting the need for strategic leadership. There are periods of reorientation, there are periods of convergence, and there's influence of top management. So there are certain aspects for you to focus on when you're a strategic leader. So when you are a leader, you just, especially strategically, you cannot just say, you like this because of your preference. There's a lot of time that the arrangements are important and they play a role in the performance of the company. So the orientation or the order everything is arranged would be important. So the process that their periods for and arrangements, you got to keep them in mind. And then, because the reason that you got to keep them in mind is not just because they're there for no reason. The order a lot of times is important. It's because of the efficiency or effectiveness. So when you follow that order, it helps you. And then convergence is when you have certain activities that together they converge, they mix, or together they create a value to the consumers. So you need to know those periods that you need for converging and merging the activities. And then influence of top management. A lot of times the top management, which is above you, your managers, will have some influence on your activities and your performance too. So all these will affect your strategic leadership. There are political power and strategic leadership. We talked about this in previous session. The political power will be in play when it is like the matter of arguing and the matter of discussing and negotiating a lot of times your strategies. So you're basically being a strategic leadership, regardless of what type of leadership you take, you always need to deal with the strategies. Then the executive tenure and strategic leadership. So it's important to have the right manner. So your executive manner and behavior and also strategic leadership also play an important role. And then research on the effect of the CEO leadership. There are different studies of CEO succession, case studies, and then survey fields on CEO behavior and firm performance. So all that is just focusing more on the CEO's behaviors and performance and how they lead, rather than just setting up a basic way of leadership and expecting everyone to just follow that. Maybe we would have just similar companies, but every single company out there is a unique company, different from others. And the reason is being because of every single one of them act differently. They have different behaviors. Their leaders behave differently. They use different strategies. They use their own unique strategies. There are a lot of commonalities for sure, but there are a lot of uniqueness and differences as well. So that is something that the leader should realize, that you got to be different. You got to be unique. You got to be focusing on characteristics that makes you stand out from other competitors or from other leaders. So potential advantage of executive teams. There's potential for you to make better strategic decisions. There's potential for team members to compensate for their weakness of the CEO, and more likely to represent diverse interests and import tasks that are less likely to be neglected. So when you see the executive teams are in place rather than just single employees or staff being the executives, there is a potential to make better decisions because you're making decisions as a team. And then the team members can complete each other, because when there is only one person making the decisions, the others will not be able to, fix the problem. But when everybody together make the decision, that's much easier to compensate for the weaknesses. It's more likely to represent diversity, like everybody has different opinions and they're able to express that. So that's going to help the performance. And then there are certain tasks that will not be neglected that are important. So executive teams and organizational effectiveness will also play a role. So key responsibilities for top executives is monitoring the environment. When you want to adapt to the environment, we talked about this, that as the leader, you want to be flexible. You want to be adaptive to the environment. So you have to monitor the environment in order to be able to adapt to the environment. And then develop a competitive strategy. And we also talked about this fact that you as a leader want to be a strategic leader, competitive leader that helps the company do better than other competitors. So how do you monitor the environment? What do clients and customers need and want? So when you are going to monitor the environment, you got to look at different aspects. One of the most important aspects is the customers. What do they really want, and what you're producing, is it addressing what they want? What is the reaction of the clients and customers to organization's current products and services? So are they happy with what we're producing? First, what do they want, and what is the reaction to what we are giving them? So are these the same? Are we giving them what they want, or are we giving them something different from what they want? And what happens if we change it to what they want, and how much can we change it to what they want? And then who are your primary competitors? Who is competing against you? What type of strategies are you using? Like going back to your examples, you will help your company buy products in bulk to reduce the price, or you do the monitoring for payment and how the performance is. So you can always use these strategies. How do competitors' products and services compare to those of the managers' organizations? So what events effective acquisition of materials, energy, information, and other inputs used by organization to conduct its operation? What are those involved in your operation? How do the organization is affected by new legislation like tax laws, labor laws? How technology is helping you? How economy is affecting you? How you're benefiting or being impacted by changing the population, by aging and all that, and how the organization is affected by international events like globalization. How much international business do you have? So for external monitoring, you want to identify relevant information. You don't want to gather any information, but you want to gather the correct information. Then you want to use the multiple sources of relevant information. And then learn what clients and customers need and want, and learn about the products and activities of competitors. And finally, relate environmental information to strategic plans. So these guidelines help you to do better when it comes to leadership, and especially strategically when you want to lead. So it's important to understand that the strategic leadership is the type of leadership that you could follow no matter what what sort of leadership you're doing. No matter if you're in production or service or service quality or marketing, you always could utilize a strategic leadership. A strategic leadership helps you choose the right strategy to get your goal, and get it done. So you always use approaches for utilizing the best approaches. Try to set objectives and attain those goals. Try to make your staff, your team members understand the goals and help you in the process of achieving. So because we started today's session late, today was supposed to be our last session. So what we will do is, because it's kind of too late for everyone, and some of the students are already, they have already left the class. What we will do is we will have one other session next week. That will be more of a Q&A. We will focus on your questions, your comments on the project. Like if you have any questions, we can discuss that to make sure that everybody has a clear picture of the final project, and then we wrap up the whole course together. So next session will be our last session, and we basically focus on everything that needs to be done. So far we had 10 sessions together, and the next session, the extra session will focus. No problem. So next session, we will focus more on your comments, your questions, those parts that you need to explain. Again, please review that slide. I'm going to send you this. Today's a slide, and the previous session slide right now. So then you will have all the slides that I have sent you every week. So please review them. If you have questions, please prepare your questions so we can discuss together and finalize and wrap the leadership course together. Are there any questions? Any comments or questions? Beautiful. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. And also, Happy New Year to everyone.